Marc Jackson, people are starting to come over to watch the Sixers. I thought, forget Joel's 46 points, 15 rebounds, 7 blocks, 7 assists. That was historic, and it was awesome. But what I thought was cool about last night was that they won a game in which they shot very poorly from three-point land. It looked like one of those games where they got out, let the team back in, and that somehow they were going to find a way to lose. But to me, the best part about that game is that you won the game because your superstar carried you to a victory on a night when the bit players weren't playing their role.
Yes, they were, man. That's the perfect way of saying it. Not just that the bench players weren't providing much help, but then you had probably one of your worst three-point shooting nights of the season. So it was like a double whammy. It was great to see that team grow up before your eyes, knowing that something's not working, which has been working for you all season, meaning the three-point shooting, to going to and playing through Joel Embiid on the post. It was wonderful to watch.
To go 3-2 on that West Coast trip early in the season, I really thought, Mark, and we've kind of talked about this, I thought they'd get out of the gates a little slow, and then around Christmas time, a little earlier than last year, but around Christmas time, start to put the pieces together, get a better understanding of each other and their roles, and then start to take off and make that playoff run. I'm a little surprised at this stage of the season that they've got a winning record, specifically having to go out west and play that road trip so early in the year. What does it say about a team early in the year, that young, to win, go 3-2 on that West Coast trip?
It was great because what was interesting about that is, remember, Joel Embiid didn't practice the entire preseason. So just to be thrown into the mix and then immediately go out on the road for a road trip, you kind of, was concerned that they weren't going to be able to be successful because everybody wasn't ready. They didn't have time to develop a training camp. So, it kind of, and then when them to go away so early and to be successful, and successful means for this young team to go on the road and come back off the road being over 500, that's a major statement.
Hey, Mark, I was talking with Mike earlier about how Joel Embiid's going to start like a little basically collage on his wall of players that he's fouled out, because he fouled out a couple guys the other night. He fouled out Randall last night. I mean, he's just a load to deal with down in the low block there. And my question to you then is, who can match up with him? Who is out there that actually can? Is the only person that can shut him down himself?
Oh, he's the only one right now. His ability to change with his brain and situation with a foul, it's just very interesting on that note because he's not just running, jumping over people, talking on people. He is fouling people out. So that's just showing how his basketball IQ is. So it's so good to see people, the basketball guys are looking down. We got the greats watching the game and they're liking what they see.
He said last night that he thought he was 69% as far as the health goes. And I just think it's funny each night that he's just kind of picking out a random number and having fun with it. But, you see 46 points last night. There's still more to come in your mind?
Oh, yeah, because one thing, remember, he had 46 when the 76ers had one of the worst three-point shooting games of the season. So that means teams were cheating off JJ. They was cheating off other guys on the team. So he had to kind of work off the double team because the shots weren't falling necessarily from perimeter with consistency throughout the game. So can you imagine if when Bellis come back, you got Bellis, you got JJ, you got Rocco, Dario, he's a little streaky. When he's going to work down low, and you got all those guys shooting the three-ball great, then you cannot help. Then you leave the defender on the island playing one-on-one defense against Joel Embiid. That is a scary sight.
Hey, Mark, as a big man, his footwork is what stood out to Mike Gill and I a lot, especially as he's starting to emerge. The guy's 7'2", but could you use the word nimble at 7'2"?
He is so versatile. I mean, and let's be honest, guys. He's not a toothpick. He's not slim of frame like Nerlens Noel or other little centers. He's a big body, well put together guy. So to see him moving so nimble, to see him making Euro steps, to see smaller guards trying to guard, smaller guys guarding him, and for him to go around them. If you were opposing coach, how do you defend that?
7 assists last night, too, for Joel Embiid, a career high there. And, of course, if you're talking assists, you're usually talking about the other teammate on the team who, by the way, almost had a triple-double. I mean, overshadowed.
I don't want to take away the 7 assists Embiid had because some of the passes he had, he is really coming into his own in recognizing the double teams. And some of the passes Joel made last night, you're like, wait a second, was that Ben or was that Joel who made that pass?
Exactly. It was tremendous. And that's all part of growing up, all part of getting a feel for the game, learning what makes your team successful, and being able to execute it. And, for him to do that, it's just showing you sign of growth, maturity, and his team knowing where to be when they know he's getting doubled. When it's not just Joel, it's also his teammates knowing what spots to be in, how to space the floor that can get some open shots from him being double teamed upon. So it's a two-way street, and it's just great to see.
Well, Mark, the thing that you start to feel out of it, too, is the unselfishness that now Joel's like, if you're going to make passes like that, Ben, too, I want to do it, too. And it's like they almost want to one-up each other, all of the guys. Sometimes it's almost like they're making too many extra passes. They get a little too cute with those passes. But Ben's passing ability has kind of rubbed off on a lot of other guys, including Joel.
Yes. But one thing, though, yes, sometimes they do overpass. But as any coach would tell you, it is better to have players that overpass the ball than players that get the ball and they get sticky fingers and start to get the ISO ball. And nowadays in the way the game is played, when you have that many shooters, I would prefer for them to make that one extra pass so they could have a shot because it makes teams second guess how to defend them, where to step up to plate, who to double, how to scramble out on D.
Right.
It's a great job by that entire team, and it is contagious.
And, Mark, we hinted at it, or I hinted at it a minute ago, almost lost to the shuffle, if you will, because of the 46 points and there's the domination that Embiid was putting on last night was Ben Simmons 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. I saw Brett Brown said before the game last night, one of the things he likes the best about Ben Simmons is his attitude and his approach to the game. Like, you can't really rattle the guy. And, of course, I won't mention any names, but there was a certain point guard on the other team that looked pretty rattled and lost. The Sixers point guard, albeit the 6'10" one, looked pretty good last night.
Yeah, he did. Ben looked great, man. He's putting up. To me, he's putting up franchise type numbers as a rookie. I mean, we have to be openly honest. He's a rookie. You hope and expect players to get better from their first year. But if you're looking at the product that Ben Simmons is putting on the floor now, it makes you sit back and wonder, like, if he's a rookie, how will he look in year 4 and 5? How would he look in year 7? I don't want to look too far in advance. But if you look at what he's doing now, the maturity, the passes he's making, the way he's able to dominate, and it hasn't been a fluke. Like, respectfully, Lonzo Ball put up a 2 game. He got benched last night in the fourth quarter. He got benched the game before, but the game before that, he had a triple-double. Ben is putting on these numbers every single night. I mean, you looking at that, you just scratch your head like, well, what else can we expect from him?
Marc Jackson, NBC Philadelphia, Sixers pre- and post-game analyst. And, Mark, when the Sixers had that big lead and then the Lakers kind of came back, somebody tweeted at me asking, who's the leader on this team? So when times are tough, do they have that guy on this team right now? Is that the next step, or do they already have that guy?
You know what? That's a great question. It is times that you wonder that. But one thing I will say, there was a couple of instances where it was late in the clock, and it wasn't late in the clock, I'm sorry. Joel was posting up, and JJ shoots that 3 that got blocked. And Joel gave his look like, yo, get that ball down low. I like that. I like that for the fact is JJ was brought into here to be not just a prolific scorer or shooter, but also to bring some leadership quality to their locker room. So it's great to have your second-year player who play less than 50 games total, be able to tell JJ, who's your leader, hey, look, hey, come on, you got to get that ball down low to me. So that was nice to see. So do they have that play? I think JJ is that. I think Jarrett Bellis is that. I think Amir Johnson is that. I think they got some great veteran leadership, but I also think Joel, with his maturity, goes a long way also.
Mark, you tweeted last night you're concerned about Dario. We've talked about it on this show, and I was about to tweet back at you like, I don't want to see Dario become another Nerlens or another Okafor where he just doesn't fit. Who wants him? We've got our two guys. Some of these guys need to stick and be role players. Does Dario have the right role on this team?
Not as a starter. You know, I've been watching him game after game after game become more and more like a Shannon Fry. Just a stay-up, spot-up shooter, catch the ball, Jackson outside. I do not like it for his development. Dario has too much skill, too much other qualities that he displayed last year, that he's a great facilitator. He is a capable scorer with the second unit. I think if I am Brett Brown, can't wait for Jarrett Bellis to get back, because I want to put Dario back in off the bench to be with more of that second unit, running the offense through him when Ben and Joel are not on the floor. Because when he gets going a little bit, he can facilitate. They try to double him. He can get guys cutting. He can create a shot. He can get dirty buckets off offensive rebounds. You know, and he only could do that to second unit because, unfortunately, when he's playing with Ben and Joel, they command so much space that he has to stay out there and just be a stretch four. And that's not to his benefit or the longevity benefit to the 76ers as his role progressed throughout this season.
Yeah, I agree.
Mark, J.J. Redick last night, only 11 points, 0 for 8 from beyond the arc. You mentioned a little bit about some of the defense they were running at him, but through 14 games so far, what's your impression of J.J. Redick been?
J.J. Redick has been just what the doctor called for. You know, he's been a spark. He's a legitimate threat, which means he legitimately spaces that floor, which means every time the opposing team steps on the court defensively, their defense is spread out because of JJ and his ability to shoot the ball. Even when he was off, did you see the way the Lakers were playing him? They would not leave him. So they know he is dangerous. So even though he shot the ball late last night, he is that guy that you give that green light to. And you said, I don't care if you wake up middle of the night, you shoot the ball from your bedroom. And he has to keep that motor and keep that instinct.
Yeah, even though he didn't shoot the ball all well that last night, he's got to be a guy that they can rely on to hit that three.
That's a great point. I mean, he spaces the floor in a way. Just the threat of him being there
spaces
the
floor in a way. It's like the Eagles with
away.
Torrey Smith. He doesn't have the numbers, but he stretches the field so the other guys can make catches over the middle.
Zach
they
Ertz
have to have that role.
Year, yeah.
One guy for sure, Robert Covington. He's going to get paid, Mark. And, you know, this guy, to me, what a great story. I mean, he is kind of the poster child of what has happened here. And I tweeted last night, I would give back any microcosm of success that this team, you would have told me, hey, they were a 50-win team, made the playoffs, got knocked out in the second round. It was fun. I would trade that all in for the last 3 years to be able to have these two guys. But Robert is kind of the poster child of everything that went on here, the ups and the downs and the player development and finding the diamonds in the rough and the ability, because the pressure on them was not to win basketball games. It was go out there and play. They were able to give guys playing time that would – look, if the onus was to win basketball games, those guys may not have got playing time. And what they found in Covington is just a great NBA story.
You know, I don't know if you checked me out in preseason when they asked you when they was talking about I think the 76ers making the playoffs, I said, yes, they're definitely a 7th seed at the worst. But then I said, if Rocco can play any way better than he played last season, I said this 76ers is fighting for a 5th seed. And at that time, I was on the air with Marshall Harris, and Marshall's like, no way. And I said, listen, if Rocco could play any 1% better than he did last year, this team is playing for a 5th seed. He's playing about 20% better than he did last year. He deserves to get paid. He fits the mold what this team needs, because you can be a good player, but if you don't fit the mold of what that team needs and fits in, a.k.a. Jahlil Okafor, if you don't fit what that team needs, then no matter how good you are, you're not viable to the team you play for. So he is a 3-and-D. He's a very good defender of 3 positions, nowadays 4 positions. He's a very good shooter. And he's another floor spacer, which opens the floor up once again for Ben Simmons to get the driving lanes, for Joel Embiid to go one-on-one. You can't leave him. So he deserves to get every penny he can get. And he's been underpaid since last year. So well-deserved to Robert Covington.
Hey, that's a heck of a raise, Mark. $1 million to $15 million.
Hey, can you imagine if all of America got raises like that?
Oh, we'd all be happy, that's for sure. Marc Jackson with us. Hey, Mark, we had Coach Lynham on, and Coach Lynham says he thinks that they could be as high as a top 4 seed. Are you starting to think a top 4 seed is possible when you see nights like last night where they kind of win ugly or win without their best group effort?
You know, do I want to go 4 seed on that? I don't know. I still want to see at least 25 games from teams. I would at least want to see 25 games, 30 games for everybody to see who falls back to earth or who's surprising. Like Orlando is starting to fall a little bit. New York Knicks, can they keep up what they're doing? Cleveland, can they get it together? Or by the time IT gets back, is it too late? You know, I would like to see those things. But by far, they're gelling. They're gelling, the 76ers. I would love to see how does Joel Embiid tend to handle this ongoing season. What happens when the next back-to-back comes? What happens when they play in 3 games in 5 nights? Does he sit? Does he play them all? You know, that's because, you know, the more games he can play, even if they cut his minutes back to 26, 28, when they play a lot of games on the week, the more this team could gel, the better they can get. You know, I just think we still got to wait to see what happens with Cleveland. Washington's doing their thing. Toronto's starting to gel. So I want to see what happens after about 30 games when everybody is settled in and then trying to hit their stride.
One other guy I want to ask you about, and you get your opinion on, is TLC. And see, is he just getting the playing time because Bayless is out, or is he a guy that you think is going to continue to have a role? Should he have a role? Do you like what he brings? Because he's another underrated kind of, he was a first-round pick, but a late first-round pick. So I think people kind of look at him as, well, I don't know what to expect from him. But what do you see from him, a guy that has a role, or is he just kind of fitting in there until Bayless gets back? And maybe in Fultz, too.
Good question. So if you are a coach, the best problem you can have is having too much talent. TLC in the beginning of last year needed time for the game to slow down for him, needed time to get his feet wet. He was determined. He was hardworking. Towards the end of the season, last 15 to 20 games, one thing he started being able to do that he could not do in the beginning of last season was make an open shot. He just couldn't. This season, he's been consistent. Last night, he didn't shoot the ball particularly great, but he's been a very good defender. He's been hitting his stride, shooting the ball. Listen, when Jared Billis comes back, Markelle Fultz come back. I know Markelle Fultz, #1 pick in the draft. You got to fit him in there. But to be honest, I can't see Coach Brett Brown, the way things going, just say, okay, Markelle, use the #1 pick in the draft. Okay, we're going to just throw you in there and take everybody else's playing time. No. I expect him to work his way back in the lineup, work his way in slow. But who playing time diminishes? TLC or Jared Bellis? Because one of them has to go. One of them playing time has to go. And the way TLC is playing, if he can shoot the ball like that, he gives you a more taller defender than even Jared Bellis, who I think is an underrated defender. But we all know Jared is a good leader. He's a good shooter. If TLC can continue hitting that shot, then look for Coach Brown to make a decision. More so Bell is sitting than TLC.
Marc Jackson, you were a banger, man. Embiid at 46 and 15, 7 blocks. What would you have limited to him to last night?
I was just saying. All I was just saying is Joel Embiid was special, man. And he is such a great two-way player. He doesn't play one end of the floor and hard the other. He plays so aggressive on both ends of the floor to the point it was a couple of times on defense that I was questioning, man, they about to call a foul on him. Oh, he's getting a little touchy-feely with his hands. Oh, he's doing a little much pushing. They're about to call a foul. I was nervous that he's going to get in foul trouble because he just plays aggressive the entire game on both ends of the court. So he was special. He was special. I'm just proud of him. I'm proud of his ability to get better. I'm proud of him to be healthy. I'm just happy for this Philadelphia 76ers, and it is a great time to be a 76ers fan.
So are you saying if Marc Jackson was defending him, he would have had 30 and 10?
He wouldn't have had the 40. The only person to ever give me anywhere near the 40s, it wasn't Shaq, it wasn't Tim Duncan, it wasn't KG. It was actually Amari Stoudemire. Gave me 44 points when he was with the Phoenix Suns. I'm not going to lie, he gave me the business.
All right. Well, when he was in Phoenix, he was a handful out there. He was getting up and down the floor. He was a handful. But Coach Brown last night, what did he say? He said that Joel was like Shaq with better feet.
He was. Because Joel is such an enormous person. He's not a little guy. So when you try to guard him with somebody his size, he's so athletic. Like people forget. People see Shaq now. People forget how fast and athletic Shaq was in his prime. Mm-hmm. That's Joel Embiid. Joel is so quick. He's so explosive. He's so dominant. He can catch up on the lower block and use his massive size to just overwhelm you and dominate you. But then you try to get real physical, try to match tick for tack, try to be more physical with him. He does that special thing with his feet, with his face-up moves, with his Euro step, with his ability to get you in foul trouble that you can't guard.
Saw a little dream shake last night. Saw the Euro step.
It was a carbon copy of Hakeem
last night from Joel Embiid, and who knows if he's ever anywhere close to getting to full strength yet. Marc Jackson, NBC Sports Philadelphia. The Sixers are back home after a 3-2 road trip. They'll play the Warriors on Saturday, Utah on Monday, Portland on Wednesday. You can hear those games on 97.3. Mark, always a pleasure, pal.
Thanks, guys. Fun.